Hey and welcome. Every organization is like a giant chorus, with countless stories all being sung at once. But what if the most important ones, the ones that actually predict the future, are the ones you can't even hear? Well, today, we're going to learn how to listen to that entire chorus, not just the loudest voice in the room. So here's the game plan. First, we'll dig into the big problem, all those unheard stories. Then, I'm going to introduce you to two really powerful new concepts, a new kind of map called Tamaraland, and a new kind of clock called anti-narratives. After that, we'll talk about the very real dangers of ignoring all this. And finally, and this is the best part, we'll turn all this theory into a practical toolkit you can actually use.
All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the unheard stories. We're starting with a huge challenge that pretty much every leader, every manager, and every team member faces, whether they know it or not.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. That big, official company vision, the one that gets polished up for the all-hands meeting, is that really the only story being told? Or is there, a bit of a gap between what's said in the boardroom and what's actually happening on the front lines?
See, that disconnect is almost guaranteed to happen because an organization isn't a monologue. It's what the theorist Mikhail Bakhtin called polyphonic. Just think of it like a space with multiple independent voices and ideas all coexisting at the same time. The problem is, when leadership only tunes into their own frequency, they miss the entire symphony.
So if an organization is this super complex space of competing stories, how in the world do you even begin to visualize it? Well, for that, we're going to need a new kind of map.
And that map is called Tamaraland. It's a fantastic metaphor that comes from a play where the audience actually has to walk through different rooms to see different scenes happening all at the same time. Sound familiar? That's exactly how your organization works. And this is what makes it so real. The CEO's office is one room telling one story. The HR department, that's another room telling a completely different one. You've got rooms for your frontline teams, your investors, your customers. Heck, even the backstage rumors and the gossip at the water cooler create their own little storytelling room. Okay, so Tamaraland gives us a map for the space where all these stories live. But what about the timing of it all? How do we see change before it happens? For that, we need a new kind of clock.
Let's talk about something called anti-narratives. These are basically the whispers of the future. They're these little fragmented, predictive pre-stories that start bubbling up right before something big is about to happen. They're not the polished official company story yet, not by a long shot. They're the raw, messy signals of what's just around the corner. And this is so crucial. These aren't just random rumors. For any leader, anti-narratives are absolute gold. They are the earliest possible warning signs of a risk you need to get ahead of, or they're the first little green shoots of an opportunity you need to jump on. They are the signals you hear right before a major shift. So we have a map for the space and a clock for the time. But what happens when leadership just ignores all of this beautiful complexity and instead tries to force everyone to sing from the exact same song sheet?
Well, that brings us to this really critical difference. The old school traditional view is what you see on the left, the monologic hierarchy. One story, one voice coming from the top down. But the reality, what's actually happening, is the polyphonic space on the right. A dynamic, messy, vibrant collection of voices that live side by side. Trying to force that reality into the old model is where everything starts to break down.
And when you do that, you get these predictable classic errors. You get managers dominating the conversation while other voices get silenced. You get this simplification where every complex issue gets jammed into a simple good or bad box. But honestly, the most fascinating error is that last one.
The neglect of unfinalizability. I know, it's a mouthful, but what it means is simple. It's that impulse we all have to find the one true story and just end the conversation. To have the final word. But here's the thing. In a healthy, living organization, the goal is never to end the story. The goal is to keep the dialogue open, to keep the conversation going. That's what keeps it adaptable and alive.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds really cool, but is it just, academic theory? No way. This is where the rubber meets the road. Let's turn these powerful ideas into practical tools you can start using.
The ideas of Tamaraland and anti-narratives aren't just for textbooks. They are the actual foundation for a set of practical, hands-on tools that the firm GrowthOD developed to help real leaders and coaches get a handle on organizational change.
So tool number 1 is a way for you to map out your own organization's storytelling landscape. It's called, you guessed it, the Tomorrowland Map exercise.
And it's actually a really simple process. You literally get a whiteboard or a piece of paper and draw out the different storytelling rooms in your organization. Then you start asking the tough questions. Whose stories are dominating the conversation? And maybe even more important, whose are being totally silenced? Once you see that, you can start to figure out how to connect those rooms and rebalance the whole conversation.
Now for the second tool. This one is all about helping you tune into those whispers of the future we talked about earlier. It's called the Anti-Narrative Tracker. This is basically a listening system you can build for yourself or your team. You just create a simple way to capture those little fragmented pre-stories as you hear them. You jot down who's saying it and in which room you heard it. Then you step back and analyze. Are these whispers predicting a risk we need to get ahead of? Or do they point to an opportunity we should jump on?
And believe me, this isn't just a thought exercise. This stuff drives real impact. I mean, imagine using these tools to finally resolve a culture clash at a startup, where the founder's story is burning out the team. Or picture using them to align two totally different companies' stories during a messy merger. These tools have helped guide breakthroughs in tense boardrooms, all by making everyone's story visible. They work because they tackle the messy, human reality of how organizations actually operate.
So let's bring it all home. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Being a great polyphonic leader isn't about being the best storyteller who tells the one winning story. It's about being the best listener, the best facilitator, the person who keeps a healthy, open-ended conversation going across the entire organization.
And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to take back with you. In your team, your department, your company, what story is unfolding right now? Just under the surface, just waiting for someone like you to finally, truly listen?